nobody can hurt me if it's just me. You know, a lot of people love you out of convenience, love you out of self-benefit. Very rare, especially nowadays, when you find people that love you truly because it's you. There is nothing, and I mean, there is absolutely nothing that you can do or go through that God will stop loving you for. It's a beautiful feeling. And when you finally recognize how beautiful it is, it's irreplaceable. All I wanna know is we can do a little something, a little something, something with you, oh baby. Hey girl, welcome back to my channel. If you are new here, my name is Francesca, but everybody that loves and adores me calls me Fancy. You are more than welcome to call me either or. Welcome to my channel or welcome back to my channel, and I'm so happy to have you here. Just a little bit about myself. I am into beauty, fashion, and lifestyle content. I'm more of a lifestyle and beauty girl, if I'm being quite honest with you. And I'm also a big community girl, so I just love building a community with people, and I love getting to know people. I love like hearing about people's lives. I love hearing about people's stories. But overall, I am a lifestyle and beauty lover, and I'm just here to share my life with you, and in the best way that I can, that is as authentic but safe for me as possible. But I feel like there's so much reward in bravery. This is going to be my testimony video, so if you clicked on this, that means that you are very interested in hearing what I'm going to share with you. Just a heads up, and just to give a disclaimer, this video is going to get very raw. It is going to get very deep, might get pretty emotional, because I am on, it's that time of the month for me. I'm already like kind of like PMSing, so I'm just very hypersensitive. So the fact that I'm also bringing this to the forefront while being sensitive, it may get a little emotional today. I have been marinating on this topic for about a little over a week now. I've talked to God about it, prayed about it. I have completely even isolated myself from social media, and I've just been spending a lot of one-on-one time with God. And I really just want to focus on my YouTube channel right now, because that's really just my baby right now, and just something that I really want to pour a lot of my love into. And I know I say that a lot, but it's something that I really want to pour my heart and soul into, because I just would love to do this every day for the rest of my life, on top of whatever other, blessings that God has for me. But I would just love to get on here and just be myself 24/7. I deactivated my Instagram. I just needed a little space from just looking at everything around me. Comparison is a thief of joy, and I, for some reason, found myself in a space this month where I was just comparing myself to a lot of people or a lot of things. And it was really starting to affect me. This month has already been very sensitive for me. It's actually been like 1 month since my relationship had came to an end, and I'm actually starting to feel more of it now, and that has me a little emotional. Some people are very scared of like being transparent, because of the internet can be a very evil place, and a very mean place, and people can really, drag something. And as much as I believe in that, I'm also a believer in, walking in your truth. And to be honest, nobody can use anything against you that you've already put out there, accepted, and walk in. And then your story is not an identity. It is not who you are, but it is your experiences that have shaped you. And I feel like if you can walk in those things confidently, then anything that anyone has something negative to say, is that's more of a them thing rather than a you thing. Look at my tea glass. Isn't it really cute? It's very cute. I think I bought this off of Amazon. But this is really cute. I love these little, these are my tea glasses. The lavender, chamomile, and honey tea. Before I get into this video and before the tears ruin my lashes, let me give a shout out to my girlfriend Tiana. Tiana, she did my lashes and it looks so, so good. I haven't worn lashes in a long time. So she did my lashes for me. I'll put her Instagram or her booking information right here, and she is T Lash Co. So if you live in Houston and you're looking for a great lash tech, Tiana is your girl. And I love how she made my lashes look. I'm just going to start with like what brings me here today, to talk about my testimony. I just want to start by saying that first of all, God is so good. I feel extremely grateful for where I am in my life right now. I may not have it all. I may not have, you know, everything. I may not even be exactly where I want to be, but I also know that I'm not where I used to be, and that is something that I cannot complain about. God is great, and God did not bring me this far to absolutely abandon me, leave me, or make me feel like I am hopeless or not worthy, or shameful. And I've just been feeling so many different emotions. This month has definitely been like a month of like reflection for me, and I've been doing a lot of reflecting. And I haven't been being like very kind to myself. I've been being my worst critic. I've been being way too hard on myself about a lot of things. I'm really doing a great job. I'm so grateful that I have friends and family and loved ones in my life that always remind me that I'm doing a great job. Every time I feel like I'm not doing a great job, I'm doing a great job. Um, so I just want to start by saying that God is so good and it could always be worse. And I'm just happy to be here. And I'm happy that God has removed me from any environments that served their purpose when they needed to serve them. And I have moved past it. And I'm just so grateful for the type of woman that He's like involving me into. And I'm not perfect by any means. I am not innocent by any means. I am a person that still makes mistakes. I've learned from things, and I am not, you know, like a slave to my past or my downfalls. Like I said, this month has been a big like month of reflection for me, and I have started to realize a lot about myself this month. And I just feel like this testimony is going to bring all that and piece it all together. I want to just talk about how God has saved me from myself. God has saved me from, you know, a lot of my dark decisions. God has saved me from situations that could have ended up a lot worse. And when I sit back and think about like the life I was living and the life I have lived, like God's favor and mercy is so amazing. And I think that sometimes we don't pay attention to it till like we are completely out of it. You get to a point where you reflect on life and you're like, there's just no way I did all that by myself. There's no way I got through that by myself. There's no way that I saved myself from that. There's no way that someone else saved me from that. Like that could be nobody else but God. Sometimes we really have to give God his flowers, because we are not out here operating and doing all of this by ourselves. We are not. And if you think you are, you need to have a sit down with the man upstairs. I like to think of myself as love. I like to think that I am a person that radiates love and radiates good energy. And although I'm not perfect, I always like to feel like I radiate just good intentions, and the friendships and the people around me that I do have that I feel like are a great example of the love that I give to others. Ultimately, in order to attract something, you must possess that within you yourself. So I like to think that I do radiate love, which is why I attract a lot of love. Um, but I also feel like I attract a lot of pain sometimes. But you know, I grew up in a very loving household. I grew up with both of my parents. Till 19 years, my parents were together for the entire duration of my life. I do know what it's like to grow up in a household that has two parents and getting love from both sides of that spectrum. And I'm forever grateful for that. I know what love is. I know what love looks like, but I also know what toxicity looks like. I know what dysfunction can look like. I know what a lack of self-love can look like, know what family looks like, you know. So at the end of the day, I feel like my parents did the best that they could with what they knew how to do with me, and I'm very grateful for how they shaped me. And a lot of decisions or a lot of things that have happened to me in my life really just came from my lack of discernment in a lot of my choices. At 19, my parents were going through a very rough time in their marriage. They already have had issues. Of anyone in marriage, you will experience ups and downs in your marriage. No marriage is perfect. But my parents had reached, unfortunately, a breaking point in their marriage. I've always grown up being like a daddy's girl. Mm. My mother made it her business for me to have a relationship with my father, for me to know who my father was. She definitely made it a priority for me to have a male figure, an example in my life. And I really love and appreciate my mom for that. Still have a pretty solid relationship with my father. I grew up being a true daddy's girl. Like, there was nothing nobody could tell me about my dad. I absolutely worshipped and admired the ground my father walked on. Like, I completely loved my father growing up as a kid. He was the true meaning to me as like my protector, my savior, the first man to love me, you know. I really loved my dad growing up, and I still love my dad just as much now. But like, you know what it's like when you're like a kid and you really love a parent. Like, I loved my dad. Fast forward, I'm 19. My parents have hit a very interesting place in their relationship. My parents were having issues, and my father was not being the most faithful man. This was the first time that my father had made a mistake in his marriage, and I was the person to know about it. Um, so it definitely affected me as a 19-year-old, like, you know, thinking that, you know, when you're 19, you stay out of grown folks' business. So it's different when you are now put in grown folks' business, and now you have this lens where, okay, I no longer look at my father as just my father, but now I have this perspective of him as a human, as a person, as a man, and how he gets down as a man. I went through this bitter period with my dad, and I was just hurt. I was hurt that he hurt my mother. I was hurt that he disappointed me, and he kind of um, disappointed my viewpoint of him as a man. I had eventually lost respect for my father, and I still respect my father, of course, now. But at that time, I was young and I was hurt. And I mean, what is a 19-year-old supposed to do with juggling the emotions of both of her parents? It's just a lot to deal with at once. And then, especially the man that is the man of my life, I feel like he broke my heart. I feel like any advice he gave me about boyfriends and stuff, it was just a complete contradiction at that point. I didn't really have, you know, respect for my father after, he made the mistake that he made, and I wasn't in a place in my life where I was ready to forgive him or give him any grace for it either. Around like 18, 19, I had already taken an interest in like the nightlife. I was already interested. I had friends and girlfriends that I knew that were like bottle girls or waitresses, and then I had a few friends that were strippers. If I'm just being honest and being transparent, I had already taken an interest in the industry in general since, you know, a kid. I remember I used to get up early in the morning and I used to watch music videos before school. I did not miss my music videos after school. I remember even there were times when my father would ask me growing up, like, what do you want to be? And I'm like, I want to be one of the girls in the music videos. I want to be a video vixen. Like, I just had this big admiration for women in videos. And so young, so naive, knew nothing about what came with that. But, you know, the television makes everything look glamorous. So I wanted to be like the girl on the TV screen. So fast forward, I'm 19. I already have an interest in this stuff. And I remember I told my father that I wanted to work at a strip club. I wanted to go waitress at a strip club. And my father completely told me no. He was like, absolutely not. You are not going to go work in no damn strip club. Like, I see what you're trying to do. It's not happening under my roof. Blah, 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 blah. Giving me the whole rundown. My father ends up telling me, you know, women that do stuff like that are whores, they hoes, and all this kind of stuff. And he was really just shaming these women, right? I mean, this happened before I discovered, you know, my father's infidelity. I'm gonna be honest with you. I took that situation and I used it as leverage over the choice that I wanted to make. But once I was in it, I was in it. It wasn't even about my father anymore. At that point, I'm in the lifestyle because that's where I want to be. I crept and tiptoed into becoming a stripper. I didn't just jump right into it. I'm 19. I don't really even know nothing about the world for real. I remember I was working at a bank at this time. My parents were no longer together, they were separated. I was a college student, and my mom had just had this major surgery. My father and my mother were not together. My father was no longer in our home. So it was just me and my mom. Pretty much was the only one there for her. And I mean, I was there for her. I was balancing school and I was balancing my job at the bank, and then I was balancing that trying to take care of my mom. My mom just had this surgery. She don't have a caretaker. No one is at home taking care of her. She can barely walk. She can barely sit up. It's just a lot going on for a parent, to have a surgery like that, to not have any support, and then on top of that, like her heart is grieving. So, so um, I really wanted to be there for my mom. I can do this. I can balance this school thing. I can balance my job and I can still be there for my mom. I remember I met this guy when I was working at the bank, and he was so cute to me. He was very attractive to me. And he told me that he was into music. He told me he was a musician. Mind you, I'm 19, y'all. I'm very green. He had a lot of connections and he thought that I was very beautiful and that I could make a lot of money, and that, you know, I had a lot of potential to be, you know, into that realm, into that lifestyle, into that world, and he would love to put me in a video and all this kind of stuff. So I'm just, you know, I'm taking it in. I'm gassing it in. Mind you, I'm gonna just he's like, "You too beautiful to be working at the bank. You could be making way more money than what you're making now." And all that kind of stuff. So we end up exchanging numbers. I'm getting to know him a little bit here and there. At least I thought I was getting to know him a little bit. And fast forward, you know, I end up telling my parents that I want to dance. I end up even bringing it to his awareness that I want to dance, that I had taken an interest in that world. And, you know, him being a musician, he was like, I could help you out, you know, I could put you on or whatever. I'm like, okay, cool. So fast forward, you know, I have my job, and then it gets to a point where I'm trying to balance like my job, my mom, my schooling, and then I'm getting to know this guy that is saying that he could really change my life and help me make more money. So I'm just kind of looking at a lot of things right now. I'm already a little scorned and a little bitter. So I end up actually quitting my job and I stayed in school. That way I had more time to support my mom during her healing process. But then it got to a point where, okay, now I'm out of school, but I mean, I don't work here no more, but now I don't have no money. So what am I going to do for money? School started becoming too strenuous on me at that time. I wasn't doing very good in my classes. And so I eventually ended up dropping out of school and just taking care of my mom till she finally got back on her feet and was feeling like herself again. And in the midst of all of that, I was still talking to this guy and getting to know him. Fast forward, I end up telling my parents that I do want to dance. I'm going to go dance, and there's nothing that they could do about it. My father was extremely disappointed. My mother was extremely disappointed. They asked me where did they go wrong, and I let them know as my parents that there was nothing that they could do or couldn't have done, um, that this was all of my choosing. And who the hell in their right mind let a 19-year-old make make the choices that I was making at 19? Um, but yeah, so I end up, start dealing with this guy. We've been dealing with each other maybe like a month or 2 months before I really start to discover like who he is, for real. Um, he actually bought me, he knew that I wanted to be in that lifestyle, and he was like, well, if you want to get in videos and stuff, the way that you can go about that is, a lot of dancers are in music videos. That's how a lot of girls get their start. That's how a lot of girls get their start. They start off in the clubs and they work their way up and da 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 da. So I'm like, okay, yeah, like cool, I get it. He bought my first pair of dance shoes. He bought my first outfit. Um, he paid for me to get my hair and my nails done. He pretty much gave me like what you would call your stripper starter kit in order for me to get out there in the field. He taught me a little bit of game. He taught me the ins and outs of um that world, so I knew how to maneuver myself, so I knew how to carry myself, so I knew how to not get played or get tricked out my money. And I mean, he really like coached me a little bit on how to run game pretty much, and how to be a moneymaker in the game, and how to have tough skin in this game, because it will eat you up just like he ate me up. He saw that I was young. He saw that I was hungry. He saw that I was naive. He saw that I was innocent. He saw that my eyes were green. And he definitely took advantage of it. And I put myself in a situation and I allowed that to happen. I remember this was the first time that I was, going to spend time with him at his house. And he was like, I have some roommates that live with me. And I already thought it was a little weird that he had roommates, because I felt like he was a much older man than I was. And I'm like, why does he have roommates? But he was just saying that like they're just family that lives with him. There was an eerie feeling when I was there. I didn't think too much of it, but I'm 19. I'm very young. I really don't know shit about the streets or shit about the world. And he was the first person to break my innocence of it, basically. It was very weird being in his house this day, and we were chilling downstairs. Nobody was home. It was just him and I, and we're watching TV. We're watching a movie, to be exact, and we're just watching a movie, and he randomly tells me, "Stand up." And I'm not taking him serious. I'm like, we're watching a movie. What do you mean stand up? Like, what are we doing? And he was like, he looked at me. He had this, I will never forget his face. I'll never forget his eyes. He had he had these eyes, and he pretty much looked at me, and I could tell he was not playing with me. He was very serious. It was a version of him and a side of him that I had not seen before. But why would I? I mean, I don't know this man. I have been dealing with this person, and I know absolutely nothing about them, and I have been lured into some bullshit. It's like, yeah, I need you to stand up. So I stood up, and he starts complimenting my body. And um mind you, I'm 19, so I'm not fully developed yet. I'm still kind of slim. I don't have like big boobs or anything like that. And I'm young. I'm a freaking teenager. And I remember him complimenting my body about how young I am and how youthful I must be. Um, and he says, turn around. So I turn around, I do a 360 turn, I do a spin for him. And he says, he turns the TV down a little bit, he turns the volume down on the TV. And then he says to me, take off your clothes. And And I kind of chuckle. I end up laughing a little bit. You know, I didn't take it seriously. And he was like, "No, I'm serious. Take off your clothes." There was something about the room that just became very uncomfortable at that point. And so I end up taking off my clothes. I take off my socks, my pants, and my top. And I was left with my bra and my panties on. He said, "I thought I asked you to take off all your clothes." And I said, "Well, I did take off all my clothes." And he was like, "You still got your bra and panties on." He says to me, "Is that the way that God brought you into this world?" And I was kind of speechless. I didn't really know what to say. I just had like a chill go up my spine when he said that to me. And then because I sat there in silence and just kind of stared at him in my underwear, he reaches on the side of his couch and he pulls out a gun and he gracefully like just set it next to him on the couch. Like he didn't give me a warning, he didn't say anything. It was probably one of the most silent threats I've ever received. I already knew I was in a bad situation at that point. He pulls out a gun, he gracefully sits it next to him. He says again to me, "Is that the way that God brought you into this world?" So I take off my bra, I take off my panties. He stands up. He's much taller than me. He's much, much taller than me. He looks at me and he kind of grabs me a little bit and he grabs me a little bit and then he, gets behind me and he shoves my face into the back of the sofa and proceeds to rape me. Um, he proceeds to rape me, and as he's raping me, he is calling me a bitch. He is calling me a hoe. And he ends up saying something to me like, you know, all the shit I've done for you, that I've helped you, I'm gonna turn you into a grown woman and you gonna get my money. Even as I'm being raped and he's talking about money, I'm so green and naive. I It still wasn't registering to me like why is he talking about money as he's raping me? Once it was over, I pretty much discovered that this man that was a musician was a pimp. And I was so um disgusted. I was violated. I did not tell my parents. I did not tell anybody. This is actually my first time admitting it on camera. I didn't tell anybody. Um, I was in a lot of pain afterwards. He had like tore me. Um, it was very uncomfortable for some days. Uh, and I didn't tell anybody about it. I felt ashamed. I felt guilty. I felt like I manifested that energy into my life. And I felt like I put myself in a position that I really didn't have to be in. And I chose to put myself in. And look where it led me. Kept it to myself for all these years up until today. Um, After that, I actually left his house. And when I remember leaving, I remember grabbing my things. I remember running out of his house, and it was super dark. I couldn't see anything. His street barely had any street lights. And I just remember running to my car. And I remember getting in that car and I hauled ass. And I never spoke to him again after that. He called my phone a few times and I just stopped answering. I never picked up. The moment I found out he was a pimp, I immediately ran for the hills and ran for my life, literally. I did continue to dance. I ended up moving clubs so that way he didn't know where I was working anymore. Everything that I learned about the game and the ins and outs that I learned about the game, I just learned through trial and error. I had to learn things very quickly so that way I would not be taken advantage of again. I was a dancer. I already actually knew what club I wanted to work at. I knew where I wanted to make my money, but I wasn't ready to get out there with the big dogs just yet because I knew that that was a different turf and a different territory. So I started off small. I started off at a little club, learned how to talk to men. I learned how to be a great communicator by being a dancer. I know how to make conversation with literally anybody. Once I was ready and bored with that club and I knew that I had more money to make, and once I knew that I could really get out there and make the other type of money that I wanted to make in the major clubs, and I ended up transitioning into those clubs. I didn't have any more shame. I didn't even care about who saw me in the club anymore. All I knew was there was money to be made and I wanted to experience it. Eventually ended up getting my own apartment. Um, and I ended up buying my first foreign car. I was like super proud of all these little accomplishments I was making with my dancer money. I ended up getting my breasts done, and I ended up doing that till I was about 25. So I started dancing when I was 19 and I stopped and I stepped out of the game when I was about 25. I was definitely making a lot of money though. I was taking trips to Miami all the time. I remember one time I took a trip with me and my girlfriends and I paid for like everybody's entire trip. I paid for our place to stay. Like all they had to do was bring money just for food at that point. There were times I would fly out to Miami and I would stay out there for a month and or weeks, and I would come back to Houston whenever I was ready. I was working out there, so I was making money out there, making money in Miami. I was going to Dallas. I was going to Austin. Um, I was traveling. Like dancing became literally my lifestyle. I'm smoking every day. I'm drinking every night. Um, I'm coming home at 7 in the morning. I have bruises on my legs. I'm exhausted. I'm tired. And I'm waking up and going to sleep and doing it all over again. Ended up getting into a relationship when I was dancing. And there was this guy I met and I fell in love with him. Well, I fell in love. I did love him. I fell in love with him, and he met me when I was working at the strip club, and he pretty much was just like he wanted me to be his girlfriend, and he didn't want me to be in that environment anymore, so he took me out of it. We moved really, really fast. By this time, I was 22. I was 22 at this time. We moved really fast. We was already living together in a matter of months. And he pretty much just told me he didn't want me dancing anymore. He wanted me to be like this stay-at-home girlfriend. So I became that. Our relationship was really good for a while. And then I started to kind of see, his true colors as well. They started to surface, especially when his stress levels started to become higher. It started to surface. The relationship actually ended up becoming a very abusive relationship. It was my first physically abusive relationship. I had been in other emotional abusive relationships, but this was the first relationship that really got pretty physical for me. It was just different. He started nitpicking at me as his girlfriend and started putting me down. I wasn't allowed to wear makeup when I left the house because who am I trying to impress if I'm wearing makeup? I wasn't allowed to sleep with my phone in the bed or under my pillow or next to me in the bed. My phone had to sit on the dresser or the nightstand. It was like a literal rule that I was not allowed to sleep with my phone next to me, and his excuse was because the phone and the radiation from the phone is bad for you, which we do know that that is true, but that wasn't the legitimate reason as to why he was saying that, because he was sleeping with his phone right next to him. I just wasn't allowed to. And the relationship just became very controlling. Even when I stepped outside the house just to have a simple phone conversation with my mother, he'd step outside and be like, who you talking to? Why you out here on the phone? Why can't you talk on the phone inside? I was very unhappy. I'm 22 at this time and I'm very hopeful about our relationship working out, I ended up finding out on Valentine's Day that I was pregnant. And yeah, I ended up finding out on Valentine's Day that I was pregnant. And it was probably one of the most scariest feelings that I have ever experienced in my life, to know that I was carrying life. Even the days or the weeks leading up to me, finding out I was pregnant, I already knew something was up because I was super tired. I was falling asleep everywhere. My mouth was super dry. I constantly had to drink water. I knew when I had to take a pregnancy test, though, when he went out of town one day and I was home alone. I was super thirsty and I got up in the middle of the night to get some water. And I went to the kitchen, I got me a glass of water, and as I'm walking back to the bedroom, I end up feeling like this, ugh, like this. It felt like somebody had punched me in my stomach, but it was just this overwhelming, like, feeling of like nausea. But it felt like someone punched me so hard that I wanted to throw up. And I didn't throw up, but I fell to my knees holding my glass of water because, baby, I was thirsty. I was not letting that water go. But I fell to my knees holding that water till the feeling went away. I drank my water, went to bed. I called him the next morning and I was like, I need to take a pregnancy test. I think I'm pregnant. Lo and behold, I find out on Valentine's Day that I am for sure pregnant. I was very nervous. I was very I had a lot of mixed feelings about it. I was a little excited, but not too excited at the same time. And then he seemed very thrilled and he seemed like really excited that, I was pregnant. So I eventually was going to tell my parents because I was like, okay, well, I'm about to have a baby, so I need to start getting ready to tell my parents. And I was so terrified of my parents to tell them about me being pregnant. Everything is good between us, and things seem to be really looking up. He's being a lot more caring with me and stuff, especially because I'm pregnant. And then eventually, he pretty much tells me that he doesn't want me to keep the baby and that I need to get an abortion. He literally tells me that he puts his hand on my stomach and he looks me in my face and he tells me that this is just a fetus. Nothing has developed yet. Like, there's no life inside of you. So there's nothing to hang on to. It was really hurtful to know that somebody that I really had loved at one point, and that I was very good to, was not only emotionally abusive to me physically, but then was just telling me that the life I'm carrying is non-existent. And I sat on that thought for a little while. But then I really started thinking about my life. I started thinking about my future. And it's so crazy how being pregnant completely changed my perspective on this relationship. I immediately was like, you know what? Maybe an abortion will be the right thing to do, because if I stay with this man, I'm going to continue to be in an abusive relationship. If I stay with this man, I'm going to have a child with him. And there's just no telling what my life is going to look like. And I just didn't want a child to be the reason that I was stuck. And when I think back about my life, had I had a child with him, my life would be so different. I would not be here where I am right now. I would be in a completely different space. I would be in a completely different space in my life. So I'm so grateful because God genuinely works things out the way they're supposed to. So I had ended up scheduling an appointment for an abortion. When you are preparing to get an abortion, the clinic actually has to give you an ultrasound first, right? Has to give you an ultrasound first, and because they have to know how many weeks you are, heartbeat, all that beautiful stuff about life. So you have to go through that process first. So I end up going to get my ultrasound. My nurse ends up telling me, she was like, yeah, you are you you're not carrying anything, basically, is what she told me. I was already getting pretty sick. I was starting to feel really sick before my ultrasound. So I went to go get this ultrasound, and my nurse ends up basically telling me that, yeah, you're pregnant, but there's no heartbeat. It's just a sac. And it kind of was crazy because he literally had told me there was no life, and then I go to my ultrasound and I hear that. So it was almost like he, you know, spoke that over me. Um, I said, okay, so, and she said, I can tell you're not feeling well. And I'm like, yeah, I'm not feeling well. I've been coming down with something. And so I ended up going down to sit with a counselor after my ultrasound, and they do blood work on me and everything. And she pretty much tells me, you know, you're going to miscarry. You're not going to have this baby. Whether you get an abortion or not, you are not going to have this baby. You are going to miscarry. So we can give you the option of going through and just removing the sac, because there is no heartbeat, there's no baby there, there's nothing has literally developed. You are just carrying a sac. Um, or you can allow yourself to go through the full experience of a miscarriage. I was very terrified. I didn't know what decision to make. I already wasn't feeling well. Come to find out that I was Rh negative, which means that so if you are Rh negative, it pretty much means that if I have a child that is not compatible with my body does not recognize a fetus as a baby. My body doesn't recognize pregnancy like, oh, she's pregnant, so let's create a home for this baby and let it develop. No, if my child's blood is not compatible with mine, or whoever I have a child with, if our blood does not, combine together for me in a pregnancy, then my body basically reacts to pregnancy like a foreign object, like an intruder, and my blood attacks the baby's blood, and it's just going to kill it off every time, and I'm going to miscarry every single time. So I ended up getting the sac removed. It probably was one of the most traumatizing experiences of my life. I remember my boyfriend picking me up from the clinic. I was really drugged up. Could barely walk, could barely stand. I was in a lot of pain. I was crying. I was very disorientated. Um, and he picked me up. He carried me. He took me home. And then after taking me home, uh, he wasn't even there to take care of me. I took care of myself. He wasn't there to take care of me. He left me and went out of town, and I was recovering from that procedure all alone. Excuse me. I'm gonna get a tissue, y'all. Give me one moment. Do see myself possibly being a mother one day, but I don't. I'm so grateful that God saved me from that relationship, because I was not supposed to have a child with that man. And I knew that I was not supposed to have a child with that man because my body rejected my pregnancy. So everything is in God's timing and everything is God's doing, and I'm just so happy that he saved me from that situation. But one thing led to another, and I eventually became really angry in our relationship. I stopped caring. I stopped being nice. I was no longer soft anymore. And the abuse started again. He started becoming abusive again, and this time I was fighting back. I remember the day that we were finally through, the day that we were finally done, was we got into a really bad argument this one day. And I remember he choked me out really bad. I almost blacked out. He choked me out pretty bad. And I just remember him picking me up, and he threw me over his shoulder like a rag doll. Like, and I just remember like hanging over his shoulder while he was carrying me, and he was about to toss me out the front door. Like literally, like he had me over his shoulder, and the moment he was gonna open the door, he was gonna throw me out of it, like garbage. Um, and I'm conscious, but I'm a little tired. I'm a little weak. I've been fighting him, and when I say fighting him, we've been fighting. We've been fist fighting, punching, tussling. He's choked me. We have been fighting. So I was a little exhausted, but not exhausted enough to, allow him to throw me out of our apartment. So he has me over his shoulder. He's about to throw me out the door, and I just waited on perfect timing, and I waited for him to get close enough to the door for me to plant my feet on the door. And when he reached for the doorknob, I planted my feet on the door, and I just kicked off the door. I pushed off the door so hard to the point that we both fell backwards. He ended up dropping me because he fell. And we started fighting some more. Eventually he let up on me and left me alone. I called my parents. I let them know what was going on because I did not feel safe leaving the apartment without my parents escorting me out. My parents ended up escorting me out of the relationship. We were pretty done after that. My mom ends up, and it's so funny, like a mother's intuition, right? My mom, I was wearing, like when I was pregnant, I was wearing like baggy clothes because I was just like, I don't want her to start. I wasn't showing yet, but I just didn't want her to like start seeing me show. But I remember my mom was saying to me like, so are you gonna tell me that you're pregnant? Because I can tell you're acting a little weird. And I ended up telling my mom, no, I lost my pregnancy. I wasn't able to have a successful pregnancy, so I had to go through this and this because I was gonna miscarry regardless. It was a very hard moment for my mom to know, to accept, and she felt really bad for me because she felt like that I didn't have to go through that alone. My mother just felt like that was something that I didn't have to experience alone, and I went through it by myself. But again, I was prideful, shameful. How did I allow myself to get into a relationship with this loser? I ended up going back dancing. I wasn't in a relationship anymore. Um, I didn't have a reason to not go back. I stopped dancing because of my relationship. So that was no longer existent. So I went back to the club, 22, and I'm like, I still got a lot more life to live, and I was already kind of warped up in my lifestyle to the point where the best form to like the best way to heal my heart was to just make money. I was very lost in my connection with God. I love God, and I've um never have stopped loving God or never stopped acknowledging who God is, but I definitely strayed away for a while. At this point, I'm single. I'm not really in any more serious relationships. I'm dating here and there, but nothing serious. My money is my motive at that point. Um, and I end up putting myself through school. Um, I had got my makeup license, I had a nice car, I had a nice apartment, I was taking trips. I was just living my life at that point. I wasn't really worried about a relationship. I had been through a lot of other things that just caused my heart to go numb. Now, I don't want to sit here and give you this sob story and tell you that I didn't enjoy being a stripper or say that I didn't enjoy dancing or say that I didn't enjoy making the money that I was making, because that would be a lie. I would not be telling the truth. I wholeheartedly enjoyed what I was doing to an extent, but I enjoyed what I was doing because I was masking that I was hurting, and money was bandaging my pain. This is not even a lifestyle that I truly love. I just fell in love with it because I didn't want to fall in love with anything else using my heart. I'm so happy that I've at least healed to a fault, because dancing has not completely made me like give up my love for relationships, and I definitely believe that I want to be married and loved still. So I haven't given up on my loves. Dancing completely changed my perspective on men because I was able to have a front row seat to see how these men operate when they're not around their families, when they're not around their wives, when they're not around their children, when they're with their friends and their homeboys out and about and stuff versus, you know, what they show the world. It's very like day and night. And being that when you're a dancer, you know, you damn near, you know, become guilty by association because it's like you just there to make your money. I'm not trying to be involved in any of your personal affairs. But it just was a lot to see, and it gave me a front row seat to know that, and it affected my brain a bit in terms of, you know, a relationship. I will never put anything past a man. I will never put anything past a relationship. I could be head over heels in love. It could be the best relationship of my life. I don't put nothing past you. Now, I'm not one of those women that's like insecure in relationships or, you know, stuff like that. I'm not one of those women that hound my boyfriends or anything like that. I allow things to reveal themselves to me. And then all I say to myself was, I didn't put that past you. I will say that, like I said, I don't regret anything about my decisions. Do I feel like I would have made better choices in my life? Absolutely. Do I feel like I put myself through a lot of unnecessary pain that I didn't have to go through had I just listened to my parents? Absolutely. These were choices I made, and by the time that anyone had to say so, I was too grown to give a fuck. And I feel like I put my heart through I put my heart through a lot of pain that I really didn't have to endure. Um, and I carried a lot of guilt and shame about it for a very long time. I knew that I wanted out. I knew that, you know, it wasn't becoming fun for me anymore, that the money wasn't becoming fun anymore. Drinking every night was not fun for me anymore. By the grace of God, I stayed away from drugs. Something that I've always stayed away from is drugs. I just don't do drugs. I'm not judging anybody that does drugs, and that is a terrible addiction to deal with. But by the grace of God, I have never had a struggle with any drugs, and I don't deal with drugs. I remember going through this period one time when I was dancing, and I just remember like I was going to work every day, I was making money, but I wasn't enthused to be there anymore. I didn't have the same enthusiastic energy to make money. I didn't have any enthusiasm to entertain the dancers I worked with, the people I worked with. I didn't even have any enthusiasm to deal with customers, anything. I just completely was over the lifestyle that I was living, and I knew that I wanted more out of life because I started realizing that if I don't get out of this game and get out of this game while I'm still young, and expand my mind and want more out of life and expand my growth, this is going to end up becoming my full-time reality. And I did not want to waste my life being that that was the only thing that I accomplished or the only thing about me. I didn't want that to be something, the only thing that people remembered me for, because I'm just so much more than a girl that worked at the strip club. I remember there became a point where I was going to work and there was money to be made, and I would just sit down at a table in a corner with a drink, probably smoking some hookah, make a little money, and then I'll go home. And I just continued this cycle of going and not wanting to be there, and I kept trying to ask myself, what am I going through? What is wrong with me? Why don't I want to come to work and make money? Why am I acting this way? Like, girl, we got money to get. Why are we coming to work and not hustling? What's going on? I started going through a very emotional period at this time. I could tell that I was going through a spiritual warfare. I was going through some growth. I was going through some growing pains. I started getting really closer to God again. And I strongly felt like when I would walk into the club and I would get dressed, put on my shoes, put on my fit, and I would go sit out there and not try to make no money. It was not the fact that I didn't want the money. It's not the fact that I didn't have bills to pay. It's not the fact that I didn't want to, go hustle, but I was there physically, but mentally and spiritually, I was not there. God did not want me there. I felt God pulling me out of it, literally. I literally felt God like tugging on my spirit. I started looking at the people around me and I started evaluating the club. It's almost like I was living in a twilight zone and then like I woke up out of it and I started seeing everything around me for what it was, not the smoke and the mirrors and the money anymore. I'm like, damn. I'm part of the low life. I'm thugging out here. Like, this is not, you know, this can't be all for me. This is not what God created for me. I literally started to outgrow it. I started to have a distaste for drinking. I started to have a distaste for the club. Um, I started looking at other women around me that have been dancing before me, and they're like in their 30s and their 40s stripping. And I'm like, I started getting scared. I'm just like, that can't be me. That can't be me. Mm-mm. That cannot be me. I had saved enough money. I had enough little cushion to sit with for a little bit. And I remember just one day, I just stopped going. One day turned into a few days turned into a week turned into a month. And then I would try to dibble back in it. Mm-mm, can't do it. And then that month turned into 2 months. 2 months turned into 4 months. Eventually stopped going. Ended up dating this athlete and we dated for some time. He really started helping me work on like a lot of my dreams and my goals while we were dating. And he really became a great friend, homie lover friend. And he was very supportive of me. And then I started to kind of get a taste of his true colors too. And long story short, we ended up not working out. And after we didn't work out, I was like, you know what? I'm just done. I need a fresh start. There are things that I've gone through that I have not disclosed to my friends or my family that they don't even know about. There are things that I'm keeping in and I'm sleeping with on my mind and on my heart every night. I have demons that I am battling by myself. I'm not running to God about my problems. I'm just in a lot of pain and I'm masking it with the money that I've made. I'm masking it with these unhealthy relationships with these men. I'm distracted. I'm distracting myself from the real learning experience. I'm distracting myself from what is this meant to teach me. I'm distracting myself from God. I'm literally running away from God's love. And after that relationship didn't work out with him, I packed up my bags and I moved to New York. I spent some time in New York and I'm getting my life together. I was doing makeup out there as a makeup artist. I was in New York Fashion Week. It was awesome. I definitely felt like a new change in my life. I am originally from New Jersey, by the way, but I was raised in Texas. And so I'm very familiar with the East Coast. So going to New York wasn't something that was like a random thing. Like I have family there. So I knew that moving there, I would still be surrounded by love. When I was living in New York, I spent a lot of time basically starting my life over, abandoning my old skin and shedding some new skin and really trying to change my life and just trying to have a fresh start. I'm in a city where don't nobody know me, nobody knows about my past, nobody knows about what I've gone through. But the thing is, I'm running away from my past. Nobody knows what I've gone through, but I'm also doing myself a disservice because I'm not facing anything either. I'm just still acting like everything is okay. I ended up getting my own place again out here in Texas. And I was working a good job, and I was like, I'm really excited about this job. And I thought it was a good start for me for my beauty career. Long story short, I end up working for this job. I have a contract with them on how much I'm supposed to be getting paid. My pay comes around, and I'm noticing that my money is a little funny. And the thing about me is I spent enough years and money to know when my money is funny. And I realize that I'm being underpaid. My boss actually tells me to my face she do not care about what we agreed to. She's going to pay me whatever she feels like I am worth. I end up leaving that job. I end up getting unemployment, taking care of myself, paying my bills on my unemployment. And I just had a moment and I was like, I'm really talented. I'm really good at doing my makeup. I'm really good at doing my hair. I already have a makeup license, but I need to add to this. So I end up deciding while I'm on unemployment to go to cosmetology school. Um, I end up I end up going to cosmetology school. I registered myself from school. I went as a full-time student because I was not trying to do part-time. I wanted to get my license and get on. So I ended up going to cosmetology school. I'm doing really good. I'm paying my bills off of my unemployment. I'm going to school full time. I even started Ubering a little bit to make some extra money. But then, the reality kind of started to hit. Unemployment started running out. My savings is running out. You know, um, I went into a survival mode and I went back to the strip club. And I hated it. I hated the whole time. I hated the whole experience because I was even mad that I had to go back there. But I went back there to, pay some of my bills, try to balance dancing again. And then I was trying to balance school now. Now I'm a full-time student. I'm just trying to balance all of this. I ended up getting to a point where I was just begging to God, like, please, like, I just want to focus on being a student. I don't want to do this. I'm mad that I even had to come back here. I don't want to be here. Please, Lord, please. I was exhausted. I was getting up, going to the club, getting out at 5 in the morning, and then making my way to be in class by 9. I'm not even getting any sleep. I'm going home, showering, getting my stuff for school, and heading out the door. I am running off of no energy at all, just caffeine because I'm taking a lot of coffee while I'm in school. There's one night I ended up going to the club. I ended up meeting this guy. Ended up you know, exchanging information, like exchanging phone numbers. I ended up changing my number because I was going through some other crazy stuff at the time. So I ended up changing my phone number and I went back to work again and we ended up running into each other again. And then this time he was like, hey, I don't know if you blocked me, I don't know if you changed your phone number, but I would really like to get to know you outside of, this environment. So I gave him a chance and fast forward, he ended up becoming my boyfriend. He took me out of survival mode completely, and he supported me all the way through school, all the way. He supported me all the way through school till I finished, and he was there for my graduation, and he just. Sorry, y'all. I get so emotional sometimes when I talk about my ex-boyfriend because he's such a great guy. He ends up taking me out of survival mode and he gets to know me as a person. He takes care of me while I'm in school. We're in a relationship. He begins to learn the ins and outs of me. He begins to learn, you know, um, a lot about my great qualities. He really took the time to get to know me as a person. And, he did not label or judge me based off of the environment that, we met in. And he knew that I didn't want to be there. He knew that I came back there, really for survival, but he knew ultimately that that part of my life and that part of my identity was done. He just saw all the great things in me. he works really hard to get past my walls, my hard exterior. And he really was a boyfriend and a man that made me feel warm, made me feel safe, and he took me out of my hardness, and he really, really, really put me in like my feminine energy. I became more soft with him, more trusting. He knew everything that I had gone through, and he continued to love me. He brought me closer to God. Went through a lot of healing with him, and he really put me in a very safe, I was just able to be a woman with him that could relax. And he just made my world feel safe again. Time fast forward, and I'm done with cosmetology school. He's super proud of me. My friends are super proud of me. My family's super proud of me. I'm working at a hair salon. Things are just going really, really well. Our relationship is as healthy as it can be. It's a beautiful relationship. Um, and then we hit a bump in our relationship where he got a little too comfortable and he broke our trust. My walls went back up. I was even more hurt by, an action that he did, because it was like, this is a person that not only took me out of survival mode, this is not only a person that had kind of really helped me heal my heart in some areas, but it was kind of like, it's a really messed up feeling when the person that you share your pain with turns around and hurts you too. It can definitely affect your relationship, and it affected ours. Um, and he felt the effects of it. Our relationship became a night and day experience, and I just put up a wall that it was so hard for him to break down. I became cold hearted in our relationship at that point. Like, I was still present, I was still there with him. I love him. I was still loving him. I was still showing up for our relationship. I was, I was still showing up for our relationship, but I just wasn't showing up in the way that I was showing up before. And he felt it. And we really tried our best to make it work for some time. And I understand that people make mistakes and nobody's perfect, and there are things in relationships that we can forgive our spouses for. But I started realizing that it's not that I couldn't forgive him. It's not that I couldn't move past it. It's not that I couldn't continue to work on our relationship. And I had forgiven him, but I just didn't want to forget it. And I could have moved past it. I've had men do a lot of things. And just because a man, and let me also give a disclaimer, because I'm not telling any woman to settle for anything just because a man breaks your heart that you can keep taking him back. No. But what I am saying is that I've gone through a lot of worse things than what my ex-boyfriend did. Even though trust is a big thing to break overall, I just know that there are things that I have forgiven and moved past in relationships, and I definitely could have moved past it. I chose not to. I stopped showing up for my relationship. I started offering bare minimum energy, and it started to hurt my boyfriend. It started to affect him. Um, I could see that he was trying and trying and trying and trying, and I was just taking and taking and taking, and I didn't want to forget it. And I wasn't trying to hurt him. I didn't want him to hurt. I didn't want him to feel what I was feeling, but I just had this wall, and I ended up reverting back to this cold person because it's how I protect myself. When people hurt me, I am the type of person that I am very hot and cold. I don't really have a lot of gray area. Um, so when I give someone the benefit of the doubt to take my heart and love them and be ultimately vulnerable, and they abuse it, or they take advantage of it, I retreat. And when I retreat, it's really hard to get the same version that you had of me in the beginning. My relationship with my ex-boyfriend had a lot of good things, and I had a lot of great things, and a lot of the good actually did outweigh the bad. And I knew that, and I still chose not to give it my all anymore. I knew that we had a love that was, I knew that there was a love that was worth fighting for. I just didn't want to fight for it. You know, you get to a point where you just get tired of people hurting you. You get tired of people um taking you for granted. You just get to a point where if you experience enough pain, you just get tired of your heart being stepped on. And sometimes you do things very subconsciously that your heart and your mind does as defense mechanisms to protect you, because I needed something to protect me when I was weak. And it's like anytime I felt a moment of weakness, there was like a version of me that came to the forefront and like protected me and was my shield pretty much. I've just been spending a lot of time with myself, and I'm realizing that as much as I've grown, and I'm 30 now, and as much as I've grown, and as beautiful as I am, as positive as I am, I've completely done my life has done a complete 180. My life has completely done a complete 180. You know, I'm such a positive person now, and I engage in a lot of positive things. I'm full of love and light to the people in my life, and at least I try to be, you know. I'm a great person to have in someone's life, and I feel that I'm surrounded by a lot of love. But it's so crazy because it's like I am surrounded by so much love, and I still feel so alone sometimes. I make myself alone. I I isolate myself. You know, I get out, I do things with my friends, you know, but I really had to understand that I have been isolating myself because it is how I protect myself. Nobody can hurt me if it's just me. Ultimately, you know, he has been and was the man that loved me and saw me through so much and found me worthy of love. I want to stop crying so bad, y'all. I just want to use this time to continue to pour into myself and focus on me. But it's also made me realize that I am not healed like I thought I was. I still have a lot of shadow work to do. Like, I still have a lot of things that I need to redig up that I have buried. And I've even forced my mind to forget about things, or I sometimes have to. I'm really starting to go through a journey where I'm digging right now in my self-love journey, and I'm realizing, like, wow, like, you know, I've been protecting my heart for so long that I didn't even realize that the shit that I had went through was pretty major, and I should have gotten help for it sooner. And I allowed it to just make my heart, I allowed it to put a stone around my heart. And I'm so grateful that my heart is still warm. I'm so grateful that all the shit that I've been through, that I still cry. I'm actually grateful for my tears, because it means that I am still in here somewhere. So I'm so grateful that God still allows me to cry, still allows me to feel, still allows my feelings to be hurt, still allows, because it just lets me know that I'm human. I needed a moment to collect myself for a second. Um, to continue what I was saying, now that I have the capacity to speak, I'm just so happy and so grateful that God has continued to preserve my heart. There's still so many layers to me, and I'm just so happy and grateful for God's grace, God's favor, God's protection. I do plan to take this time just to kind of focus on myself and focus on my healing journey. Sometimes I think that I am a healthy person because my cutoff game is crazy. Um, I won't entertain certain things, you know. I won't fight for certain things. Like, I sometimes find myself, you know, not even fighting for love the way that I want to fight for love because it puts my heart in too much position to be crumbled. I have a fear of losing myself. I'm not going to sit here and say that I'm a completely damaged woman or anything like that. I have gone through a lot of healing in general over the years because it has been some years. Like, I'm just now talking about this, so it's been some years. Um, so I've gone through my own healing process, and I am back in my relationship with God, and that feels amazing. God is so good. But even through the other things that I have healed through, I'm realizing there's still a lot of bandages that still need to be ripped off and discussed. I have found a therapist that I'm really looking forward to connecting with to start that healing process or to continue my healing process because I've been kind of doing the journey alone and with God. But I would like to have some, professional input to guide me along that, or just have someone to vent to pretty much and talk to and help me navigate my own feelings. That would be something so beautiful, and I'm really looking forward to therapy. I never want to walk around this earth like hurting anyone because of my own pain. I never want to be a projection to anyone. And that's something that I do, and I feel like I do very well, is that I do a very good job at not projecting onto people. And anytime I feel like I find myself wanting to project onto people, or I can sense that I'm going to do that, I typically retreat into a shell. So I don't do that because I don't like when people project onto me. So I do a pretty good job at not projecting onto people, but what it does is, because I don't project, I isolate and I hide in a shell. And it really hurt my ex-boyfriend, to know that we had been through so much together. He had been through so much with me. We loved each other through a lot of things, that I could just cut my heart off. And he's not the first person to tell me that. I've heard that before, but it's just really different for some reason this time. And it's really made me want to work on not being a hot and cold person. I don't want to be a cold person. I don't want to be a person that doesn't act like I don't care about people that I love and people that I do care about. I want to show my love and my care, but I also want to continue to set healthy boundaries for myself and just continuing that practice of my discernment so I don't put my heart in bad situations. That doesn't mean that I still can't be the love that I am. You can protect yourself, protect your heart, set healthy boundaries and guidelines, and how people interact with you and what you allow people to deal with you without being cold. I want to be a better lover. I want to be a better friend. I want to be a better daughter. I want to be better for me personally. And of course I want to be better for those I love, but I really just want to be better for myself. I just want to sit here and tell you that there is nothing, and I mean there is absolutely nothing that you can do or go through that God will stop loving you for. God is a forgiving God. He is a merciful God. He is a gracious God. He is a man that will love you unconditionally. He is a being that will love you unconditionally. He is an energy, an aura, an entity, whatever you want to classify God as, but he is this being, this spirit that is bigger and so much bigger than all of our flaws, our mistakes, our shame, our guilt. And I want to stop carrying guilt. The only person that it's hurting is me, and I don't want it to spill over into anything else in my life. I sit here and I beat myself up so much, and I sometimes make my guilt and my shame my identity, and it makes me hide and it makes me run, and it doesn't allow me to be great, and it doesn't allow me to, be special because God made me special. It doesn't allow me to shine truly because I'm too busy hiding. So grateful for the woman that God has molded me into right now to be able to sit here and share this with you. I'm going to continue, to do that work and become the best version of myself that I possibly can be. Any trauma that I've developed, any bad habits that I developed, any bad thoughts of thinking that I view myself of or the world of, Now, I'm not oblivious to the world. This is reality. This is real life. I live in the real world, but I want to still be able to walk through this life and walk through this world with a good heart, a good aura, continue to shine and just be authentic without it making me hard, like without it hardening me. This romance wasn't perfect, but it was probably the best one I've been in. And, you know, to know that love exists, to know that there is someone out here that love you, will love you through it, just love you through it. It exists. Realizing in this relationship that it taught me that I can be a little selfish, and I can't just shut down when things get hard. And don't get me wrong, trust is a big thing to break in a relationship. You just have to figure out which battles are worth fighting for you in any relationship, whether it's the relationship with your friends, your family, with your romantic partner. Nothing excuses anyone for breaking your trust. Absolutely not. But I do believe that there were things that I definitely could have fought a little harder for. I don't want to give up on people that have not given up on me. I don't want to give up on people that did not abandon me. I don't want to give up on people that made loving me a choice. A lot of people love you out of convenience. They love you out of self-benefit, but it's very rare, especially nowadays, when you find people that love you just truly because it's you. But I had to walk away from my relationship because I started realizing that my ex loved me to the point where he was pouring so much into me after I had went cold. I started to see how I was draining him, and once I started to see that, that didn't make me feel good. And I just wanted to set him free from me. And we've all heard it before, is that like, we accept the love that we believe or feel that we deserve. My past does not exclude me. My past does not exclude me from deserving good love. If anything, I deserve it more than ever. But I don't want my entitlement of feeling like I deserve love to make me treat people that really love me like their love doesn't matter. I don't want to be in my way anymore. I just wanted to come on here and pour my heart out to y'all. You guys will continue to learn more about me as I unravel and I continue the journey. Like, more will be discussed whenever I am ready. And it was hard for me to get ready to share this. So just keep giving me more grace. Please keep giving me more love, compassion, and grace. This was a lot for me to do. This was a lot for me to discuss. And I just overall like want to be a better person. And I'm not a bad person, I'm a good person, but I ultimately just want to be a better person to myself. Take full accountability for all the choices that I've made in my life. Doesn't mean that I deserved that pain, and I'm not saying that I deserve that pain, because I've been through some things that I truly did not deserve. But had I loved myself better, and had I loved myself better, and had I had better discernment, I would have not been in those situations. I just want to sit here and remind you that there is absolutely nothing you can do and absolutely nothing that you can go through that God won't grow you through. And as long as you are chasing better and you are seeking better, there is better. I hope that this was able to register with anyone. This was very scary of me to do. And we have so many things that we don't discuss. And so many things, so much shame, so much guilt, so much pain, trauma, anything that we don't always discuss. But God knows, and He is the ultimate healer. He is the ultimate therapist. He is the ultimate friend. And I just can't be more grateful right now. I don't like crying. I don't like being emotional. This is taking a lot of vulnerability. I'm a very I can be kind of prideful. So I'm just so happy that God just gave me the blessing to just let it go. So I want to heal the version of me that has lived through that. And I just want to sit here and remind you that God is so much bigger than anything that you could ever go through, and that His love for you is completely unconditional. And when I say it's unconditional, it is so unconditional. And it's a beautiful feeling. And when you finally recognize how beautiful it is, it's irreplaceable. I hope you were able to enjoy this video. It's getting late, y'all. I'm getting tired of crying. I'm about to go to bed. And like they tell us at church, we love you and there's nothing you could do about it. And I just want to tell you that God loves you and there is absolutely nothing you can do about it. Don't forget to hit that like, comment, and subscribe button. And I will see you ladies next time. Good night. I love you. God loves you. And God bless you. Bye, guys.